Pretty on spotlight. Thanks.
Okay, let's set our motivation. You have, think of all sentient beings seated around you, beginning with your family and friends. That includes strangers, antagonists, all sentient beings, and try to generate a motivation that by engaging in this session together, we do something to benefit all of them, and ultimately, and we achieve full enlightenment in order to be of the greatest possible benefit to all sentient beings. And then if you like, generate a mind of refuge. You can visualize the Buddha Dharma Sangha in front of you and generate attitude of going for refuge to them. And then request their blessing and guidance. Okay. So, yep, today's session is on love and kindness. Yeah, I've been thinking in preparation for the session, actually, I've been mostly thinking about the difference between love and attachment. That's a big question that comes up a lot for people, and it's something we all struggle with, kind of dividing, distinguishing the two and trying to reduce attachment while still have affectionate love for people. Yeah, for friends and family and so forth. So, yeah, first of all, just in general, in our human life, like love is essential. So what are we talking about in the Buddhist context when we're talking about love? First of all, we need to clarify because the word love is used in so many different ways, in different contexts. People mean different things by it. So in the Buddhist context, generally when we talk about love, it's quite simple. We mean wishing for the welfare of a person, wishing for someone to have happiness, right? For wishing for a person to have happiness. So an attitude of love is always, by person, we don't mean a human being necessarily, it can also include animals or other kinds of beings. But generally the attitude of love, then we observe another person, either ourselves, can be ourselves, or it can be someone other than ourselves, another human being, another animal, ghost, hunger, hell being, whatever. And then we just wish for that person to have well-being and happiness. That's it. It's just simple like that. So of course, happiness and well-being can take many, many different forms. So we can use our imagination to think when we meditate on love, like in metta meditation, then we begin with ourselves and then observe another sentient being. And we actually can repeat the words to help generate the mental attitude, like may I be well, may I be happy. And then if you generate or meditate on metta for a friend, think of that friend, bring them to mind, observe them, and then think, may they be well, and may they be happy, and try to generate that attitude that goes with it. So why don't we do that now for a moment, maybe? Just do a simple little metta meditation. And observe, so as you do it, especially observe the kind of feeling that arises. If you know, if you're doing the meditation correctly, then it should generate some kind of feeling, some different feeling than your neutral state. So think of, someone you'd like to practice loving kindness towards. Can be yourself, or can be another person, family member, friend, whatever. Stranger, antagonist. So just pick one person at first. And then you can repeat the words and try to generate the attitude. May they be well. May they be happy. You can also use your imagination to think what form would well-being, happiness take for this person. But the refrain is, may they be well, may they be happy. And try to generate some sense of that intention in the mind. Okay, stop there. So, did you generate some feeling in your mind? What kind of feeling did you have? Did you notice any change in the kind of what you felt? What did you feel in your mind? Well, what do you think? I mean, does when we generate loving kindness towards another person, does it bring or go together with pleasant feelings or unpleasant feelings or neutral feelings? Any answers?
Sometimes unpleasant feelings.
You said pleasant feeling?
No, sometimes feeling unpleasant because sometimes they won't listen what we like. They don't know that.
So just now when you focused on a person and could you generate the intention? May they be well, may they be happy. Could you just keep it that simple, or were you thinking, yeah, but they don't listen to what I'm telling them? So I can't hear
I
you.
don't think if we wish also that person has to be happy, but that person think oppositely that feeling that it's not a happy, it's a suffering. Maybe they feel like that. Of course, our end we are feeling that may that person be happy, but the opposite person think that oh, it's not happy. You are making me suffer doing these things.
But just having the intention, may they be happy. Does that seem to bring pleasant feeling, or unpleasant, or neutral, or it could be any of those?
I'm feeling unpleasant only.
Maybe you're having a bad day. All right, how about Almond, Anna? Anne? What was your experience
Yeah, for
meditating
me,
on
it
metta?
was very pleasant. For me, it's very relaxing. It's very calming. It's like something meaningful.
Okay. Anne?
Yeah, it's very nice and pleasant to see the people you care about be happy. And then when thinking about more challenging person, to see them be happy. And then I kind of just went out into like all directions. But I think because you mentioned hell beings or something, and then just like all beings. And then I was like, okay, at first just having a good day, feeling happy. And then I was like, saw them realizing emptiness, and then seeing all things as essenceless, and then cultivating renunciation and bodhicitta. And it was kind of cool to be like,
Okay.
wow, everyone's like enlightened, and it's really awesome.
Okay. That sounds pleasant.
It's very total. I
For
was
sure.
like, I never thought I'd land there. I was like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Okay, you can continue on after the session. Yeah, I mean, I think generally, generating loving kindness, attitude of wishing another person well, it brings a pleasant feeling to ourselves. So by the way, it brings about happiness for us, even though that's not the motivation, the intention, or the purpose. But yeah, that is kind of one paradox. Is like, well, I mean, generally, well, love, you can see, is just the intention, that the wish that someone have well-being and happiness. So now let's compare with attachment, right? What is attachment then? So attachment is when we observe a person. We can be attached to ourselves or another person as well, just like love. But when we observe, or in inanimate objects also. Can we love an inanimate object? Is one question maybe we can come back to. Not so important question, but definitely we can be attached to an inanimate objects like money or fame or clothes or food. But so attachment, we observe an object that appears attractive to us, and the mind focuses exclusively on the attractive aspects of the object. So then another question is, does love focus exclusively on the attractive aspects of its object or not? But we'll come back to that. But so attachment focuses on an object, focuses exclusively on aspects of the object that appear attractive. And then it goes along with the desire to possess or enjoy, use, experience that object, to kind of bring it closer. And then the mind has an unrealistic expectation that the object of attachment will give us pleasure, will give us enjoyment. And then the mind clings to it. It's difficult to let go. It's that attachment is like oil and cloth. It's difficult to separate from the object. So it clings to it. So yeah, try to bring to mind an instance of attachment, something you know you're attached to. Maybe your body or money or a certain kind of food or a certain person. I'll just bring to mind. And see if the different aspects of this definition fit your experience. When you observe the object of your attachment, does the mind focus exclusively on their attractive objects? Does it tend to do that? And does the mind have an unrealistic expectation that the object will give us pleasure endlessly? And does the mind, observing your object of attachment, want to be closer to and possess, maybe control, enjoy at your will object? And is it difficult to pull your mind attention away? Does your attention kind of go to that object again and again? It's difficult to pull your attention away from. And then one last question is, if you're suddenly, against your will, cannot experience the object of your attachment, it's the object of your attachment, you're separated from it, such that you cannot anymore have it, enjoy it in the way you want? Would your mind be upset? So just try to remember the kind of things that you saw while you're reflecting there, and we'll come back. But well, one fundamental aspect of attachment is it always is motivated by selfish concern. Right? Attachment arises out of concern for oneself, what one wants and desires. Whereas love, pure love, it doesn't arise out of selfish concern. It's genuinely concerned with if you love another person. Pure love is genuinely concerned just with that person's welfare. May they be well, may they be happy. That's all, no strings attached. No need for them to do something for me, or act in the way I want, or listen to me, follow my advice, or reciprocate. So we can see but usually for us they're mixed. But pure love, it can be selfless. Attachment cannot be selfless. It's very selfish. So this is, why are we comparing these two? Because we have to check again and again and again, especially people that we care about. Because for us, attachment and love are always mixed. Most of our love, it's almost always mixed with attachment. Maybe in some moments we can have really pure selfless love. Definitely we can in some moments, but generally it's usually mixed. So especially with people we care about, we love them, of course, but usually it's mixed with attachment, and that becomes a problem. So it becomes a problem when, for instance, well, basically because our attachment becomes selfish. So it's like we love them with, it's not unconditional, it's very conditional. I love you, I care about you if you do this, you treat me the way I want, or if, you'll spend time with me as I want, if you'll call me when I want, if you'll wear the clothes I want, if you'll, have the kind of job I want, if you'll, get together with me when I want. So, So almost any instance when we're, someone that we care about a lot does something that upsets our mind, it's almost always the case that it's because we were attached to something that we wanted from them. And they didn't fulfill that, and then we get upset. So try to compare, it's helpful to compare different people. Try to think of someone who has real pure love. Or imagine you having real pure love for this person. So think about a person and if if they did the same thing that upset your mind, but you weren't attached to anything at all. Like you weren't attached to them being in any certain way. You weren't attached to them, weren't attached to them acting in any way, any particular way that you wanted. You just cared about them. That's all. You just wanted them to be well and to be happy. Then is it the case that the thing they did to upset you, would you have gotten disturbed by it, like angry about it, or upset about it? So I don't know. Generally, I think not, but maybe some cases, like think about a parent who cares about their child, loves their child a lot. Is there a difference, like when a child does something that puts the child themselves in harm, like playing in the street, or jumping into the pool when there's no adult around, something like that. So if the of course parents must have a lot of attachment for the child, but just because imagine a parent who has just pure love for their child, they just want their child to be well and happy. There's no strings attached. They have no no, wanting something for themselves. And then the child jumps in the pool with no one around, even though they don't really know how to swim. Then, of course, the parent's mind would be upset. I mean, be disturbed, like they'd be, well, maybe shocked, maybe upset. Why did you do that? You shouldn't have done that. Maybe have to, reprimand or explain to the child very, very clearly and without any leaving anything in doubt, like why they shouldn't do that in the future. Maybe make them promise not to do that again in the future. But do you think like a parent like that would get angry? Child? Probably not. There'd be underlying attitude of just really care, real affection, really caring about the child and really showing real concern, but not getting angry. Whereas then we can try to imagine a different parent who has a lot of attachment. They expect their child to obey them, for example. That's a big form of attachment. When you set out rules for a child and you expect them to obey. I mean, they can be out of just pure love, but usually it goes with attachment, where when the child breaks the rules that the parent has set out, then it feels like a personal affront rather than just it's the rules are put in place to protect the child and to break them, so then the child's making themselves not safe. It's more because it's a rule that I made as a parent. Then when the child breaks the rule that I made, it's a personal insult to me, parent. That gets involved, right? So then if you imagine a parent, it's more like that. They made this rule, you cannot, jump in pools when there's no adult supervision around. And then the child jumps in the pool. Of course, there is love. There can be love, real concern to protect the child. But there's also easily this, why didn't you listen to me? Why did you do something I told you not to do? Becomes this very I-centered thing also. And then that leads to anger. So any instance of anger always has underlying cause of attachment. We want something to be a certain way, want someone to behave a certain way, want a computer to function a certain way, something, and then it doesn't. So we're attached to things being in a certain way, and then we don't get that, and we get angry. So this is a good one to check. Any instance of when we're angry. So we can look at instances in the past and see if we're attached to something. We were attached to something that was a condition for the anger arising. Yeah, so, okay, so attachment is always motivated by selfishness. So when we're in a relationship with people we're close to, friends, family members, then when we see that, the kind of concern we have about them, worried about them, or when we feel upset about something they did, we have to check, is that really that mental disturbance we have towards them, that kind of being upset towards them, is it really arising out of a sense of concern for them, apart from what I want or need, or my preference, or is it really related back to me and that I want them to be like this, I want them to act like this, I want them to do like this? And it can help to imagine, this, another person, maybe like one of our teachers, or another, like the Dalai Lama, for example, who really does have this totally selfless love. Imagine them in the same situation, caring about the same person we care about. How would they react? Would they react in the same way like we do? Can help, like the Buddha, how would, if the Buddha was, was my mother's son also, then how would he react when, she says this or does this? That can help. to see how we are attached. And then also, yeah, another example I thought to mention is like in kind of romantic relationships, because it's very easy to see in that kind of, because attachment is so strong, love is so strong. Another one is jealousy. You know, if you see jealousy arising, so this comes up in romantic relationships a lot. If you feel jealous of someone spending time not with you, that's definitely arising from attachment. You know, just pure love for someone does not give rise to jealousy, because jealousy is totally self-centered. Why aren't they paying more attention to me? Why aren't they spending more time with me? Why that other person, that other thing that they're doing? So whenever we feel jealous, it's a very blatant sign of attachment. But in a romantic relationship, it often happens, you know, one partner gets kind of tired with the other, not sure they want to be together anymore, and maybe, you know, exploring other kind of friends and yeah, people, and then the other partner gets jealous or gets gets jealous, gets upset. But then think like, you know, if you're in a romantic relationship with someone and it really seems like they're not very happy spending time with you anymore, and they really, maybe there are other people that when they're with those people, they are more happy spending time with those people, even if it's just for lunch or, you know, an outing for a day or something. So if you didn't have attachment, if you just wanted them to be happy, then you would rejoice that they're finding other people that make them happier than you can, what you do. You would just be happy about that if you really didn't have attachment. So why do we get like upset that they're not spending time with me, that they don't want to be with me? It's totally selfish, right? It's because we want them to be with us. So that's clearly attachment, right? So we could try to use that same in that, you know, case for romantic relationship. It's quite obvious attachment versus just wishing a person to be happy, pure love. But we can use the same kind of comparison and apply it to, you know, other examples, friends or with family members. So we have to check again and again, you know, is my, because also we can change it. It's not like we don't have any control over our own mind, right? We do have control over our mind to some degree, right? Not total control, unfortunately, but to some degree. So we can check, you know, in one moment, we might start to feel kind of upset towards a person that we care about a lot. And that very moment, we can check, you know, is my being upset, is it really motivated by some kind of selfish desire that I want them to be like this, I want them to do this, versus just caring about them? So we can see in our own mind, yeah, we do have a degree of where we just care about them, really. We do just care about them. But then it's mixed with this other degree of, yeah, but I want them to be like this. I want them to do this. And sometimes we can catch ourselves that we can see like, oh, yeah, I'm getting upset and I'm maybe questioning that person or doubting that person or second guessing them because it's really, there's my own selfish trip is at work here. And we can let that go. You know, if we see that as a fault, that selfishness, then we can, you know, in one moment, we can just kind of think, you know, decide for ourselves, oh, I'm going to let that go and just put my own interests aside here, right? And focus more on just thinking about what they need. What does that person need in this moment, in this day? And focus on, you know, intending them to have that. And that'll bring us a lot more happiness, right? Rather than, you know, bringing ourselves the misery of, oh, but I wish they would be like this. I wish they would act like that, which is totally out of our control and totally not our right anyway, right? So it's really good to check our minds again and again like that to see the way we're relating to another person. Is it motivated by selfish interest or is it motivated by real concern for them? Okay, we should stop there because Mon's falling asleep. Wake him up. And there's probably questions because this is a hot topic, I think.
Yeah. Okay, everyone who wants to ask the question, they can unmute and ask, or you can just type. But thank you for that, Venerable. I was totally here. Sorry.
Okay, okay. You were getting very peaceful, relaxed, meditating on metta.
Yeah. I was actually yesterday somebody was asking me that I feel afraid of ghosts. How can I remove that? I was like, I basically tried the Metta Sutta of Buddha literally in that situation, and that removed my fear of ghosts completely. So she said, but that sounds very scary. Like imagine them being here and me giving them love, giving them all that peace. It makes it very real. Like, okay, ghosts.
Oh, yeah. I guess that makes it real. Yeah, but you don't have to, I don't know, just because you practice metta towards the ghost doesn't mean you also have to decide they're very real and they're very here. You can just leave it in the zone of like, well, if there are ghosts and if there are any here,
Yeah.
then I wish them to be well and I wish them to be happy.
Yeah.
And it's very comfortable.
Yeah. No, you can't practice, for example, Tonglen on ghosts. That you can't do, can you? Like, could this be?
Oh, yeah, you can. Yeah,
Because then
sure.
fear will come up for sure. Because then,
Well, it depends on your understanding. I mean, that's that if you're practicing Tonglen and fear comes up, it shows your understanding is not really complete. Yeah, Tonglen is a difficult practice. It's quite,
yeah,
it's quite profound because it can be afraid to think like, may that person's suffering ripen upon me. If you grasp at things as being very concrete, and you feel like their suffering really is going to ripen on me, and then I'm going to be totally miserable, sick, and so forth. Then of course it's scary. Right? But the essence is that you think, may their suffering ripen upon my self-cherishing mind and destroy it and free me of it. So it's like on Tonglen, it should be like an elixir. It transforms the suffering of another person into a medicine for you.
right.
But yeah, if you don't know that, then it's just, what is it, like a peacock eating poison versus, I don't know, chicken eating poison. The chicken dies, the peacock, they get more colorful feathers. Isn't that in ancient Indian mythology? That's like the peacock in a poison grove. No, it's said that the peacocks are the birds. Why they have such beautiful, colorful plumage is because they're able to eat poisonous plants and transform it into a nourishment. Whereas other birds, they'll just die if they eat those plants.
I'm hearing this for the first time. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, bodhisattva. I mean, a peacock is the symbol of bodhisattva in Buddhist symbolism for that reason. Yeah. Okay. What about who else? There's 8 people in the room, all with their videos off. Are you people there for real? Or are you ghosts? They're ghost zoomers. Hello. Do you have a question or comment about love and kindness? Yeah, show your smiling faces. Then you show your kindness, your love for us.
Why does suffering and desire have a bad rap?
Yeah.
in Buddhism.
Yeah.
It like
Well,
in Western psychology, or maybe in Christianity, isn't suffering no pain, no gain, and then as to desire, we can't get anything done while we're a do kind of society, do this and do that. We can't get anything done without desire. Well,
true.
motivation.
Mhm.
So how can I resolve that?
Yeah, very good question. Thank you. So first of all, even in Buddhism, there's a difference between desire and attachment. Right? They're not the same thing. Because like in Buddhism, we talk all about like desire for enlightenment, the wish to become enlightened, the wish to achieve liberation from samsara, the desire to be a better person, the desire to help others. Those are all not afflictive desires. Whereas attachment is a kind of afflictive desire, right? So what's the difference? Like a wholesome desire, well, it's based on, a correct understanding of reality. That's something that's realistic, something that actually is possible, and something that's beneficial. We should desire, things that are beneficial. Like even we were talking about love, just loving kindness is a desire for someone to be happy. That's a wholesome desire, and it's possible. Whereas attachment is attachment is an afflictive desire, because generally attachment is a desire for someone to make me happy. If we're attached to someone strongly, we expect them to give me happiness, to make me, we expect that if I'm with this person, I'll be happy. So but that's unrealistic, that another person can make us happy all the time. So attachment here, it puts this unrealistic burden of expectation on, that if I have more money, I'll be happy. If I have better house, I'll be happier. If I have more famous, I have more friends, that will make me happy. We put the burden of our own happiness on other things and have this unrealistic expectation. So so that's a kind of unrealistic desire, and therefore it's problematic. So there can be wholesome desires, realistic desires, which lead us, to betterment, and then there can be unrealistic desires or perverted desires, which lead us to destruction. And then why does Buddhism give suffering a bad rap? Because it's suffering. Actually, there's positive qualities to suffering too, and it's true. Like what you say, without some hardship, we can't achieve anything worthwhile. No pain, no gain. That's definitely true. Even in Buddhism, we talk about that. But I guess the question is, I think in the Western psychology and the Western view of the world, it's kind of assumed that suffering is inevitable without end. Right? It's not possible or realistic to bring an end to an individual person's suffering. It's just something we'll always encounter. Because when we look in the case of one individual's one life, that is pretty much what we see. It's pretty inevitable in one life of one person that we encounter suffering. But the Buddhist view is, well, to look for the root cause. What's the most fundamental cause of suffering? And is it necessary that that cause always exists? That's something that is not looked at in Western psychology and Western worldview. It's like, I'm not sure people ask that question. I'd be interested to know if there's a philosopher, spiritual teacher in the West who's asked that question. What is the fundamental cause of suffering? Is it possible to eliminate that? Not sure. But in the Buddhist worldview, it's because there is a very precise fundamental cause of suffering, and it's possible to eliminate that with ignorance. Then and selfishness, self-grasping, ignorance. Then and we all have the potential to do that. Then we should try. I think there's I saw a couple questions coming from the chat.
Yes, Venerable, there are some, like a couple of questions on chat.
Okay, I'll take one. Sujita's question in the chat. What practice must we do to get rid of this underlying attachment in simple things in life? Oh, yeah, good. Like wanting to get a place on time and running late because of traffic, etc. And this gives rise to anger and maybe road rage. Yeah, good question. How do we get rid of this underlying attachment to simple things in life? There's many different techniques. depending on the situation. So let's start with your example. Okay, so you're running late. You're supposed to be someplace on time. But then I know how it is. Bangalore traffic is like the worst. You're trying to get to the other side of Bangalore and you're running into one light after another and traffic is so slow and one traffic jam after another and then these terrible drivers. And you're slowly realizing like there's no way you're going to be on time. And not only you're not going to be on time, you're going to be like very late. Well, there's a difference again between just wanting to be there on time, which is fine, and being attached to being there on time, right? So we just want to be someplace on time. Then that's what motivates us to try to leave our house on time, try to take the best route, do what we can do. We can do what's in our power to try to be there to meet the person on time. But if it's just that simple, we just want to be there on time. We do what, we do the things that we think are sufficient to, to ensure that we'll be there on time. But it might turn out that they're not because we couldn't predict the road conditions. Maybe it rains a lot on the way. Maybe there's just more traffic. Maybe we run into like a parade or a political rally or something, some roadblock. And then if we're not attached, we can easily just be like, well, okay, then what to do? So it is. I just go with the flow and keep going and try to get there as soon as I can and just explain to the person when I get there or whatever that this is what happened. I'm sorry. Apologize. There's no need to we don't have to get angry. Whereas if we're attached, well, what are we attached to? Maybe we're attached to like what that person's going to think about me. That if I'm late, they're going to think like I'm an irresponsible person. I'm disorganized, that I'm not in control of my life, that I'm like a mess. Yeah, it's true. Most of the time, only when the real anger arises, then we realize we're attached. But that's why we have to think about it now, think about the whole scenario now, and then become more sensitive to when we're first starting to get upset. Then we can change the way we're thinking about it and do something. Once we're already angry, it's difficult to like get back ourselves out of that. But yeah, when we're trying to get to someplace on time and then other things happen and we're getting upset, it's true. It's because we want something very badly to be a certain way, and there's a reason, with some reason, right? So is it because it can be just as simple as, well, I just want it to be the way I want. It's just because I want it that way, right? Sometimes it's just that. But is that realistic? I mean, if we it's like a 4-year-old. Like if we go around the world always thinking, well, someone asks us, well, why do you want it like that? Well, it's just because I do, because I just do. You see little kids say that. Is that real? I mean, if we go around the world just expecting that, things are going to be the way we want them to be, just because we want them to be like that, we're going to run into a lot of disappointment, right? Because the world doesn't care like what we want. No. The inanimate world definitely, and most of the animate world also. No, it just doesn't. It's not a factor, right? That's why we're wanting one antidote to attachment is think of your place in the universe. Attachment feels like the whole universe is just this little kind of sphere that is wrapped around me, and I occupy most of the space in it, and other people, where I'm like a giant in the world of the Lilliputians, these little people, and they should all just scurry around my feet and just get out of my way when I'm stepping somewhere and come when I say come and go when I say go. But that's not reality. Like, think of the big world. In Marcus Aurelius' Meditations, this is one of the refrains he has, is like, imagine, kind of launch your mind out into space and look at the whole cosmos and look at the whole earth and find where you are in it. You're just this little tiny, minuscule thing, almost like you don't exist. Like you almost don't exist at all. It's just this tiny, like flying in a plane. You're flying a plane over India. You can't see any people, right? They're smaller than the ants you look at on the ground. So that's us. That's each of us. So if we keep ourselves in that context, then when we run into traffic jams and run into rainstorms, and we can't get what we want, it's totally expected. That's exactly what we should expect, because the world is a big, complicated place, and there's a lot of other things happening than what is, it's not turning around us. Okay, so that's one antidote. Another is to think about death. It's a good antidote. That's on my mind because I'm teaching a module on death for another center these days. So that's another one Marcus Aurelius speaks about in his meditations again and again and again. Yeah, we were born, some time ago. We're going to be here for a while, then we're going to be gone. So all these little things we worry about, like we die tomorrow, what does it matter? It really doesn't matter that much. And how important is it really in terms of life? Okay. Anyway, I hope that gives you some things to think about. But another antidote is just thinking about to attachment, when we're attached to something, is to think about, because attachment focuses exclusively on the pleasurable aspects of it. Think about the unpleasant aspects of it. But I won't go into that now. Okay, then there's another Zoom user question, I think. Okay. Yeah, I want to relate. It's because love and kindness requires a lot of strength to make it show consistently. It's true. It requires a lot of strength to make it show, because it gets mixed up with attachment. It really requires a lot of strength to reduce our attachment, because our attachment we're so habituated to. It comes up so continuously and habitually strongly. It's really hard to reduce our attachment and then let our love show. Okay, love and kindness requires a lot of strength to make it show consistently. True. Love and kindness from others make people suffering. Is that attachment or what? What? Love and kindness from others make people suffer. I'm not sure I get that. Can you type out can you clarify somehow? I imagine you might mean something like, if someone really loves us, they're really kind to us, and then they die, we suffer a lot. That's true, no question. That is one of the most tragic, most painful things in life, I think, is to lose someone who you care about and who cares about you a lot. That's really difficult. Yeah. But I'm not sure that kind of suffering, I don't know. It's not like, it's totally different than the kind of suffering when someone's being mean to you. It's good to compare the two. Think about the way you suffer if someone's not kind to you. And the opposite, if someone's really cruel to you, they insult you, they belittle you, kind of torment you. That kind of suffering is just, there's no silver lining at all. It's just miserable, right? Whereas, the kind of suffering when there's someone who cares about you a lot, they're really kind to you, they're helpful to you, they just care about you a lot, and then they die, which is inevitable for all of us. And you miss that person. You wish. Part of the suffering comes about because we wish we could be together with the person again. I mean, and that's not necessarily attachment. It's legitimate. But we wish we could, and especially when things are not going well, we wish we could have that person's support. Wish, we could talk to them. That kind of, there's a suffering there, but there's also a sweetness that goes with just remembering the person, right? Remembering their kindness. there's a lot of sweetness that goes with it, actually. And just remembering that is a big help, right? So that kind of suffering, I don't know, it's not like a miserable suffering. It's painful, but it can kind of give us strength in a way. It can lead us to sort of wisdom, about the truth of life, right? And lead us to kind of a deeper understanding of reality. I mean, of course, the suffering that comes when another person is really cruel to us, mean to us, that also we can learn from that. I mean, that's a positive feature of suffering, is it can help engender compassion in us. It can, it challenges us, in a way that can cause us to grow. But I think you can see the difference, though. There's not any kind of sweetness in a person being cruel to us. Of course, in the long term, maybe we really grow and learn something profound from it. It's possible. Then we look back on it with kind of appreciation. That's possible. But yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know, Zoom user. I'm not sure if I even got your question right, so I'm not sure if I answered it, but whatever. There's no further clarification. All right, let's come back to the live participants.
Venerable, so there's a practice where we start with our loved ones, and then we move to our friends and neutrals and the ones we dislike. So I feel like the purpose of this practice is to not be indifferent to the neutral ones, love the friend ones more, and actually work on the ones that you dislike, because those are the real ones who are giving you suffering. They're occupying your mind unnecessarily. I feel like we practice, I practice a lot on them, and I have been doing that a lot, but it feels like a long time, like it's not really working for me. Like I'm not really
Which
becoming,
part's not working?
like the ones where I'm loving and kind to the ones, those are disagreeing with me, or those are being unjust in my opinion. And it just feels like, let me just avoid them, let me just not talk to them, let me just not engage with them completely,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, those are the hardest ones. That's why we do those last, the ones that we really dislike, the ones that we, yeah. I mean, that's why we start with ourselves, because if we don't know, how to love ourselves, we can't really have authentic love for another. And then we start with, and then we go to, that's the 4 measurables, is that practice, the 4 measurable thoughts. Within that, there's a measurable love, right? Yeah, then we go to friends from ourselves. We go to friends, family, people we naturally care about. That should be quite easy. But we should see that we can enhance the love. I mean, that's another thing I didn't mention, is like love, caring about another person. It's not just something we either have or we don't. It just comes by the way. It's something we can cultivate. It's an intention. May they be well, may they be happy. We can cultivate that intentionally, like a practice, and thereby increase it. Increase the moments in a day that we feel that, increase the strength with which we feel it, increase the number of people towards which we can direct that, and the habits. So all the habits that have around love, we can build all of those, right? Like working out our body, we can work out our mind in that way. But yeah, it is difficult. Yeah, I mean, I can think, people are really, 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 like don't like, not usually, I don't know, famous people or something like that. Yeah, and it is. I don't spend a whole lot of time. I think it's a matter of habituation and time we spend. Like if we spend more time, like the mind will change, right? The attitude we have towards a person will change. But so I'd encourage you, I'd encourage you to maybe make an experiment if that's true or not. Can your attitude change? If so, take maybe someone, maybe if you feel like you have the most challenge with the people you dislike or tend to deem as like antagonists, enemies, take one person, and just because we're practicing metta meditation towards someone doesn't mean we need to want to be around them And, it doesn't mean we don't avoid the person. Some people have such a negative influence, a disturbing influence on us. It's wise to avoid them, right? There's no point being around them, right? It helps to be around supportive, people. And people we can have a benevolent influence on as well. People who disturb us, we disturb them, then yeah, better we stay away for their benefit, for ours, both. But that doesn't mean we don't generate metta towards them, right? Doesn't mean we give them up in our heart, right? In our heart, we need to embrace everyone. So, but I'd encourage you to experiment. Maybe take 1 week and focus on one person, and every day, at least one session or 2 sessions every day, really try to, generate loving kindness for that person. And I can almost guarantee you'll see at least some slight transformation in the way you feel towards the person. Yeah. You get some insight into what it's like to be them, instead of always thinking about them from your perspective as Aman or whatever. You can get some, that's part of generating love for a person, is you step out of your shoes and can try to care about them, not as you, but just as a neutral person, or as, they might care about themselves. Okay. I think B has a question. That'll be the last one. No? You asked me so many questions in the past. I just assumed you would ask a question. No. Okay. Okay. Well, our time is up anyway. So shall we dedicate now?
Yes, Venerable.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot more on love. I mean, it's a very important thing. We can't be enlightened without generating universal and unconditional love. So universal love, embracing all sentient beings, and unconditional, not expecting anything in return. So I think, maybe as a conclusion, I think we should try to love other people, not because that's what someone told us we should do, or that's what, because we want, them to like us or something like that, but we should do it just because we feel like that's the right way to be, right? We feel like that's my potential as a human being, is to love all creatures, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing I can do, and therefore I do it. Shouldn't depend upon, other people doing something in return. Okay, so let's rejoice in whatever merit we've created together this session. Rejoice in the merit created by all the other human beings, all the other sentient beings, and all the enlightened beings everywhere, in the past and present and future. Think how wonderful it is, all the activities they do to benefit. So by this merit gathered together, may all sentient beings be well and happy in all the forms that takes: food, clothing, education, companionship, shelter, health, education, insight, wisdom, compassion. So may all sentient beings have every form of well-being and happiness. Especially may all the lower realms be emptied. All beings, may they take precious human rebirth, a rebirth in a pure land. May all those who have recently died, especially in the tornadoes in the US and other violent conflict from disease and sickness. All those who have recently died, may they quickly take best possible rebirth. May the Buddhist teachings flourish. May this pandemic and other natural disasters and violent conflicts in the world, planet Earth, quickly come to an end. And may our gurus, especially His Holiness Dalai Lama and Lama Zopa Rinpoche, have long and stable lives. And may all of our own actions not cause the slightest harm, but only benefit whomever we come into contact with. And especially may this center hosting the session, Choe Khor Sum Ling, have all the requisite means of support, benefactors and volunteers and so forth to continue to flourish and offer programs like this and the Buddhist teachings to countless sentient beings in Bangalore and beyond. And especially to fulfill the advice of Lama Zopa Rinpoche for the center. Okay, thank you all so much, and I wish you all the best. Till next week.
Thank you, Venerable. Thank you. We'll see you next week for the session on chanting and
Thank
mantras.
you, Venerable.
Thank you so much.